Ladies and gentlemen, it's Eliankutse back here with another driven review, and this one is very special because they're all very special, let's be honest, but this one's a monumental feat in engineering. It also heralded the change, not just for a brand, but for an era that we're going through at the time. It's more of a story than a review, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Maserati MC20. So the reason I say the MC20 is not just a review, it's the stories, because the MC20 arrived at a time when the world needed it most. It was late in 2020 when the world had just been through the massive coronavirus crisis, and the largest event that Italy had had since the coronavirus started was the launch of the MC20 in Modena in Italy. The MC20 held in a new era for the Maserati brand itself. In what it wanted to achieve, it signaled the Maserati's return to racing. It's actually, in its style, it's actually kind of similar to the MC12, which was the last car that Maserati had in racing, which between 2004 and 2010 had over 22 victories, and in fact was a very successful car. But after that, Maserati had a break from racing. Next year, they will return to racing, and it will be this platform which will be the basis for that. One of the most extra special things about the MC20 is its absolutely beautiful sculptural design, and everything on the exterior has been thought of with intention. After all, as I said before, this is the car that sets the template for the future of the Maserati brand. So they had to get everything right, and they certainly did with this one. For example, you look at the wheels, it has the trident detailing in there. And there's actually a model where it has the styling, which is reminiscent of the birdcage concept car, which was around in 2005 that they didn't actually release. But then you look at the sculptural design through the body. Along the side here, you can see we have this sort of silver detailing here, which is split into three parts. On the other Maseratis, you'll notice they have the three air intake vents on the side. And this is a modern sort of acknowledgement to that in general. Earlier I mentioned that this is a car that's going to bring Maserati back to racing, much akin to the MC12. Now the front of that is very, very reminiscent of the MC12. It has that lovely sort of rounded, open mouth, pointed front. A lot of Maserati cars are built for comfort, for touring. This car is built for race first, comfort second, but it does everything very well, and I'll come on to that later. One obviously spectacular feature of any performance car is the way the doors open, and this one has a very special way of doing that indeed. It's got these dihedral doors which open and fan out wide to make it a spectacular entrance, but also it makes it easier to just drop in when you need to. I talked about this car being a race car first and a practical car after that. By that I mean, if you look at how far wide these doors come out, you're going to need an ample space to park it. So if you're in the UK like myself, you better take up 2 spaces. So when Klaus Buser and the design team at Maserati were approached to make this car, or decided to make this car, should I say, they had a precedent to make something that was truly new and would set the tone for Maserati going forward. And in that especially was this design. Now the Notice design is very minimal, very sculptural in essence, but has many key features which have become signature features across other ranges. Since this car was launched in 2020, they have the Grecale, which have features from this car. But one of the big things it has done, which is very individual, it integrated the Trident brand and logo in different ways across the car. So for example, the air, even in the viewing port for the engine, the glass sort of perspex screen has little indents and marks shaped in it, which almost reflect the Trident design itself. Very clever indeed. Again, the little design features that acknowledge Maserati's past. It has the 3 porthole designs across the engine, reminiscent to that on the front of the car, which obviously where the engine normally is as well. So they've literally thought about everything regarding their design heritage. But as I said before, they want this car to be fast, and so it had to be designed first with that in mind. So one thing I don't need to explain to anyone, and that is the artistic beauty and the elegance of the silhouette that this car possesses. It's sculptural, it's aggressive, but it's sleek. It has these really beautiful aerodynamic lines that flow gently across the whole body of this car. And while it is the MC20 and this is the coupe, I am going to mention the Cielo, a notable mention to the convertible that came out earlier this year, because they've managed to retain this elegant silhouette that this car possesses. And that, my friends, is truly a triumph. So today we are in the inside of Maserati MC20. You might notice I'm speaking louder than normal. That's because you can hear quite a lot of noise in here, which is not a bad thing. Like I said before, it's a race car. You can hear the feedback of the car performing as you put your foot down and hear that V6 Natuna engine just pump out some serious torque. It's actually up to about 700 Newton meters torque, 621 brake horsepower, this car. It gets from 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. Now, I'm actually cheating a little bit somewhat with this car because I've actually driven one on track in Modena. It was a left-hand drive, but because of that, I actually have been able to witness, I wouldn't say quite the full power, but close to what this car can do on track. Because on these roads here, the car is so potent that you can't really take it to its full limit. You can try, you can handle, you can enjoy the acceleration, the tight handling, especially on a day like today, but you can't truly expose it. It just keeps on going and has that twin turbo charged V6 engine, the Natuna engine in the MC20. It was actually the precursor for all the new ranges of the Maserati Trofeo engines that we are beginning to see now. So in the Sculptural Trofeo is based on this. The new Gran Turismo Trofeo is based on this. So this car was a precursor for a lot of things to come from Maserati, and it really is the epitome of all of that. So let's talk about the interior of the MC20. Now, I've said it before, and I might sound a bit like a broken record here, but it's a race car first. So the interior of the MC20 is very refined. It's essentially a duet between Alcantara and carbon fiber. It is all about racing. It's very minimal, very few distractions to what the car is made to do, which is to drive fast and drive well. And little things such as, you notice on the Quattroporta or the Grecale or even Levante, for example, you'll see that there's loads of buttons on the steering wheel that give you this sort of control over the media, the space, your environment, and so on and so forth. But this one, every button on the steering wheel is pretty much centered around driving, about how you drive, how fast you can drive, the drive modes, and all that nonsense is kept well away from that. The screen behind where the speedo is controlled simply by 2 buttons on the stalks, which allows you to control what you're viewing at any given point on this dashboard. It is still an electronic dashboard, that's why it's a combination of the future with the past. It is an electronic dashboard which allows you to change it depending on what mode you are in terms of the handling itself, or just depending if you want to see the map, for example, and navigation. So there is that flexibility as well, there is that futurism as well, but all in all, this car is 100% geared around driving and absolutely unapologetic about that. And I love it. So although, like I said, this is a car geared for racing, they have a real fine balance. It's race first, comfort stroke grand tourer later. But it doesn't mean it completely ignores the fact that you might want to use it as a daily drive, and you can definitely use this car as a daily drive. I think it's important that I say that. But it has different modes. So it has wet mode, which allows you for more sort of, like it was this morning essentially, when there's been a downpour and it's still kind of drying, it's a bit damp on the roads. It's got GT mode, which is probably the optimal mode for just grand touring generally. It's got sport mode, which is the mode you have when you just want to have a lot of fun really, but not too crazy. There's still a little bit of traction control. I forgot to mention, this is a 8-speed dual clutch gearbox, and it is a rear wheel drive as well. So it can be skippy if you want it to, and that's what the Corsa mode is for. And that is what we have when we're on track. So when I was driving on Modena, we did have a bit more freedom with that, but on the country lanes in Derbyshire, it's not quite what you want to be doing right now, or maybe not all the time anyway. A few little sparkly features in the car. It's a real contrast of futurism and classicism in terms of its design. So if you look at the rear view mirror, there's an option to have a camera, because you can't really see through the back. The whole mirror actually turns into a camera, so you can actually view behind you live at all times in camera, or if that's annoying you, you can turn back to a more of a generic mirror mode, which is fine, because you can see little glimpses, I suppose. It's not that clear, just in case you want to. But then contrast that with the air vents. A lot of other cars have an option where you can control whether it's open or closed. This simply has one where you can close it or open it fully in one motion and then direct it fully with the other motion. Very simple, very effective design, but just minimal distraction, minimum fuss, all about keeping the weight down so its car can perform on track. So who's going to buy the MC20? Well, a lot of people. Ask yourself the kind of people who are buying the new Ferrari 296 GTB, which is also a V6 engine, which is also a 3-litre engine, and also has this 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. And it's a bit more expensive, that car. This car, entry level, you're looking at about 200,000, 220,000 for the Cielo, which is the convertible, the Spider version of it essentially, which incidentally has the same performance stats, which is crazy, by the way. Whereas the 296 GTB is more around the £240,000 entry level on the road. So it is more expensive. Or there's also an option which is a little bit older, I'd say, but the McLaren 720S is a similar kind of drive. Perhaps potentially you could compare it, but it's a 4-litre V8 engine, right? And again, it's about 215,000. You're looking at entry level price for that. So this is a very affordable, stylish, unique, efficient, absolutely drive-worthy, enjoyable, boast, show-off worthy vehicle, probably for the best money you can get at the moment for this kind of car. So I think, and they're rare, which let's not forget, that is something to be considered. There's not many of these on the road. So when you see them, I've noticed it definitely, that people always ask you, they want to know, what is that car? What are you driving? Tell us a bit more about it. I didn't know Maserati made a car like that, so on and so forth, which you struggle to get with some other marques, even though they are very good cars, very stylish cars. You probably won't get the same reaction like you'll get as you turn up in one of these. Right, so now the summary of the MC20, the driving experience of. Now, I've experienced this car on track and I've experienced this car off track. And both are absolutely spectacular. There is nothing not to like about this car, but you have to get your expectations right. This is not a Grand Tourer. This is a race car. So don't expect it to be super comfy. The new Gran Turismo that Maserati have made will fill that bracket and fill it well, I have no doubt. But this car is meant to be a race car. So anyone looking for a car like that, it will be very, very hard to ignore the MC20. From the outside, it looks extraordinarily elegant, unique, really fine, beautiful lines. The interior is minimal but classy and clean, real race driver's dream. And when you put your foot down, I mean, there's just nothing not to like about this car. It's extraordinary, it really is. Absolute 10 out of 10 for me. Wow! What a vehicle. What a car this is.